In today's episode of the Neil Wilkins podcast, I'm joined by Michaell Magrutsche, who is an Austrian California multimedia artist. Now, Michaell is an interesting character because he is also a creativity awareness educator. He's got his own podcast. He is an author of 5, upcoming 6th book, and is a speaker and guide to various organizations and individuals. And something that's very, very interesting, and we're going to go into this in our conversation today, is that Michaell is always on the lookout. I guess you could call him a little bit of a philosopher because he's always on the lookout for patterns within art and creativity that foster more creative communication. And I'm very interested and excited to explore not only art and creativity and how that is part of a communication process, but also really importantly, with the advent of this new AI world, how all this stuff is going to fit in together. So if you're pro AI, anti AI, if you're a creative, if you're artistic, if you're a communicator, and let's face it, to some extent, all of us are, then this is going to be an episode that I think you are going to find fascinating. So welcome to the podcast, Michaell.
Thank you, Neil, for giving me a canvas to paint. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. That's great. And already that creativity is coming through. For those who are listening here who don't know Michaell, do you want to give us a little bit of a backstory as to how you really found yourself, I guess, in a world of art and creativity?
Born in Vienna, Austria. Was a sick child. Got to school when I was 7. Got the next punch in my face. I couldn't read or write. I couldn't speak in front of the class. I was stuttering, and I couldn't anything regurgitate. I understood the subjects, but I couldn't regurgitate them. And so I had to, I don't know if it's in England the same, but in Europe, you don't get pulled with you. So you have to repeat grades. And I had to repeat 2 or 3 grades till I couldn't repeat them anymore. And then basically the system says, get a job. We can't help you anymore. My diagnosis was, oh, you're dyslexic, but basically that was it. You still have to do the same that everybody else does, and you don't have any advantages. We just know, you don't do it on purpose, basically. That was 40 years ago, so it's probably different now. And and then the only thing that saved me was, first art, looking at art, listening to art. And then, like so many adolescents are, saved by that because they feel like misunderstood, not fitting in. And art kind of makes you feel in. And I started really loving music, and I DJ'd. I sold mixtapes out of my trunk. I produced fashion shows. I was in advertising. And at 30, I looked at my resumes and said, I couldn't have been an accountant. I couldn't have been a mathematician. I'm an artist. I think that was a pivotal moment because I chose to say that. I didn't wait for society or systems to deem me an artist. I was nothing else systemically. I was a human that was an artist. That's it. And I say that was pivotal because it actually, once I accepted that, and I said, it doesn't matter what the society says that I'm a bad artist, but I am an artist. That's what I do. And I try to find fulfillment in that and try to fit in first, to get the cover of the magazine. I always thought the next thing is going to be the better thing, the cover of a magazine, contests, winning contests, have an exhibition at the international airport, having this, and nothing fulfilled me, nothing. And it was always like what we all feel. It was like you're done, you hit the quarter, you pass the quarter, and then you get a little bit of jolt of fulfillment because you did it, and the next one, next. It never stops. It's never enough. And actually, I write a white paper right now about I'm never enough, because that's what I see the whole world is doing, and there's no fulfillment. And I literally hit the wall till I was 50, where I wrote the last book, My Smart of Art, where I separated the art product from the art creation. I was under the impression, and I was in there for 40 years, in the art business, and I was not aware that it's all about the product. It's not. It's the similar to you are a businessman and you try to do bicycles, right? And if they don't sell, you as a businessman, you just go, okay, I'm gonna sell suits. That doesn't happen with artists because they put in their soul. They have a magically experience creating this, and then the society or the systems don't like what you do, or don't respond. So you feel like you're a waste. So that's why I think 1% of artists make 98%, or 2% of artists make 98% of the revenue of art. So it's literally like a widget. And yeah, and then I really got the enlightenment when I was 50. I was thinking, no, am I system relevant or am I human centric? And then I was thinking about this issue and said, oh, I'm a part of nature. We're not a part of systems. We are born in systems. We get baptized in the system. We get all this stuff, in the school in the system and the marriage in the system. It's all systemic job. But we are really a natural animal with sexual urges, with feelings, with rage, with anger, that live in a systemic world where those things are not valued. You can't be angry in a job. You cannot, have any sexual advantage or feelings. Even, you shouldn't have even sexual feelings in a company. You shouldn't feel anything. You should do your job and leave. And England is, as you know, England is one of the top of this in classifying people, because the baroness is not the same as a baron, even in the upper class, and it's just. And I think we try to fit in, which we are DNA driven. We're DNA driven to fit in, and and we are done till we take the last breath. We want to be part of it, because we are herd animal, and so that's kind of, I try to spread the world about, because my life became super easy. Literally super easy, because nothing has changed. Not a girlfriend or more money or job or living somewhere else. The moment I compartmentalized, okay, what are we? Are we a human? We are part of nature. So I can use nature when I have a problem. When everybody argues about something, I say, what's going on in nature? How do they solve that? And then that we contribute with what we are into the systems. And I think you are one of 8 billion people, and you're very unique. There's only one of you, Neil, and there's only one of me. So when I talk to people that say, oh, my life is not worth it, you're one of one. So you are very special, because you're one of 8 billion. You're not like 8 billion. And see, this is where the system manipulation comes in. You're exchangeable. Yeah, in systems, you're exchangeable, not as a human. Ask your wife, or ask anybody if you just can exchange that person. No, you can't. You know it from friends. And I've never met a person that is the same. And I think that really liberated me. And that was a long introduction.
That must have been a wonderful moment. That moment, you used the word pivotal. So it is a real watershed moment where it's almost, you become Michaell version 2, suddenly appears. Exactly. And can flourish and blossom, because you figured it out. You figured out that there was almost like a permission that you could give yourself through art and creativity to be that human, not to be a part of a system which wasn't serving you. I think, that must be for everybody who kind of finds that moment, no matter whether it's when you're a teenager or through into later years, at some point in that journey. When that happens, it must be so invigorating. So, you can't close the box on that, can you? Once you've found that is going to be your life from then on, isn't it?
Your spirit takes over. It's not. But I think it's different for everyone. Like I said, you cannot generalize it. When you wake up, you can wake up in little increments. I woke up in little increments before, but the real pivot happened when I realized, and literally had to write a book to figure that out, because I was going. So I'm writing a book. Why? Because I cannot comprehend why are 99% or 97% or 8% of artists worldwide poor. I mean, I cannot imagine a world without art, culture. I mean, this, and I dove in, and it took me, I think, 2 years to write, to come to that thing. So I had to dive in, back, and then was very good. Of course, was COVID, because it's, I knew that before COVID, but then COVID manifested the whole thing. First, it was about the art product and art creation. So the magical process of art creation, which is the magical process of everything. I mean, what is the beauty of podcasting? You had an idea and you brought it into the physical. You didn't say, I want to make a podcast, and never did it. You had an idea as thought, and you literally manifested it. And there's so much power in it, because I can say, Neil, you have the worst podcast, or you have the absolute best podcast I've ever heard. It doesn't matter. I cannot take away the conjuring of your podcast. And that's the power. That's the absolute power. Then the people say, well, artists are so we are all poor, but they're so self-confident, because when you work with your hands, you create something, and you find it, we find it with hermits or with people that are in gardens, right? They have a certain thing of very low labor, systemically low labor. And you think, wow, I mean, that guy makes €2 a day, and is totally happy, totally in peace, totally aligned, not freaking out, no anxiety, nothing. And I think there is something to that. We are creative animals. I call us collaborative creative animals of nature. Because we created London, New York, Singapore, Apple, Google. It's all collaborative. It's not one person created that. And that's our strength, to do it together.
Do you think that when you kind of define art and creativity, then, because what I'm trying to hook into here is almost like, for everybody, what is the answer? So if there is some form of creativity in all of us, just by being human, we have an opportunity. A lot of people don't realize it, but we have an opportunity to demonstrate some kind of creativity. For some, it might be fine art. Others, it could be creating ceramics. For others, it could be watercolor painting. For others, it could be sketching, could be graphic design, some digital work. We've all got some way of kind of tapping into this non-system driven element of ourselves, haven't we? Even if it isn't necessarily to follow it professionally, but to follow it maybe using this as a leisure pursuit, or something where you're finding and discovering a bit more about yourself by, taking that leap into trying something artistic. Why do you think is that for a lot of us, and a lot of people are very busy professionally and personally, that we don't necessarily realize that this can be opening up a whole new world for us? And if we're feeling anxious, if we're feeling challenged, if we don't feel part of the system as it is, we don't feel as though we belong, why is it we find it so difficult as humans, do you feel, to be able to tap into something that's so innate and natural within us?
Because it's systemized. We wouldn't, because it's systemized. It what the focus was on the product. What did Michelangelo create? What did Da Vinci do? Rubens, Vermeer, all these people. That was the thing. It was the product. Not everybody. And first of all, people were working. They weren't doing art in the old days. And the ones that did art were the ones that have a super talent, ability to create. To actually basically copy, with their own voice, and got their uniqueness in it, but they were painting. And I think we all have that. Like we all could run a marathon. We just have to, train for it, but we have the muscle. And when a half a marathon, we could all run half a marathon if we would train for it. And we all are deemed with art, and I believe we are deemed with art. To have art as a muscle is because art is the only language that universal. If you and I start singing, nobody might like it, but if you and I sing, the whole world understands. You don't need to translate to anyone that can hear, hey, Neil and Michael are singing. You don't need to. If you and I draw with a crayon on a piece of paper, and we make a thing, the whole world understands that. So we have that given by nature. Nature has given us everything we need. It has given us, because nature doesn't do, okay, I have everything for bears, I have everything for pigs, I have everything for ants, but for the humans, I don't have anything. They have to do it all themselves. So that's a misnomer. That's a systemic. Somebody might have make money and said, okay, instead of eating a herb that actually has no side effects, let's create something, and then we sell you a pill. Everything is convenient. Everything, in the old days, people got around. I'm not saying we should go back to the old days. I don't condone that at all. I'm just saying we have to see ourselves between, collaborative creator animals. And here we create, because we are collaborative, systems that serve us. But the system should serve us for lifting the human potential, not repeating wars, not repeating the same history. And the reason why we are stuck in this is because it's never enough. And we are coming home. You work in a job that isn't your job. You work in a job, you're adapting. We have one of our superpowers. I call it the third superpower after creativity and communication. What we have now, a human-centric conversation, not a system where I'm right and you're wrong, or vice versa. And the third one is adaptability. And we're using the energy of adapting. Takes energy. We use that to be 8 hours in a job that isn't us, so we don't enjoy it. So it takes more energy to adapt. And then, because you're always adapting, you and I are adapting right now, so we can talk. And then you do you go further, and then you come home at 8 o'clock, you drive home, at 5 after 8 hours, and you're tired. You don't want to create. You don't want to express yourself. What are you doing? You eat. You shouldn't eat at night. And what else you're doing? You're watching Netflix. We are creator animals that need to express themselves. That's in our definition. And we are not expressing ourselves. So we get rage, we get emotions, because we don't know ourselves. Our self-awareness is completely off. And one of the best self-awareness tool is creating, because, like I said, nobody can take away you did that. And the awareness that you got, I said, oh my God, I had this idea. And look at this, I have a thing now. How did I do it? There's so much reflection in it. And when there's something else and say, hey, Neil, do you want to do another podcast or another thing? You will probably say, I don't know, I haven't done it, but I will try it, because you have that self-confidence from creating this, not because your podcast was successful. That is, that's the tweakiness there. You think, oh, once you're successful, then everybody should come to you and get advice. No, you are successful already. If the people like that, that's not in your hands. That is not in my hands either. This could be the best episode, and we want that to be the best episode, but we create the best thing we can do in the moment right now. And if people like it, that's good. We like that. So I think we have that. On the reason why people don't like it is because we are systemized. We don't experience expressing ourselves. Therefore, a businessman will come saying, Michael, I admire what you do, but I'm more a businessman. I said, if you were an artist, you wouldn't have a business. You wouldn't call yourself a businessman. Every table setting we set, everybody does it differently. Your grandfather, your kids, your wife, everybody sets the table differently. Everybody puts the glass somewhere else. Everybody prefers a color of napkins. I mean, we constantly do creative decisions, but it's like success. Success is supposed to be something we have, and everybody's ashamed because they don't have enough success. But really, and that's why we don't. We really hatch into the failure and mistakes, but we really never analyze success. Or why was this successful? What did we do? And the power is to analyze success, not the failures. Failures are cobblestones to your road to success. It's just, so you see already how I separate the human centricity from the system relevance.
And there's a lovely innocence. I think that's the right word that I'm trying to use here. Lovely innocence to the way that you describe artistic and creative success, because it isn't about it being better or worse. It's not about it being right or wrong. The artistic success or that creativity feels in the way you describe it. And there's just something lovely about this. It feels that it is just what it is. So it almost comes without judgment. As soon as you put it into a system or a process, you're comparing it with a norm. You're comparing it with a benchmark that says you're either better than this or you're not as good as this. You're going to get this number of followers in social media. You're going to make this amount of cash, by selling this particular product. But how are you going to feel after it? Well, it surely is a much nicer way of feeling to say, take that system out of it, appreciate it. That's the creative moment, irrespective of the product, for what it is. That is success, because it just feels good. So is the kind of the feeling and that subjectivity, do you think, the real answer here? Because it is about kind of just celebrating it for its own essence, really, and for what you've created. Like you say about, podcast episode, for example, could be the best, could be the worst, could be somewhere in between. But it's just the fact that we are here creating something that before we started talking did not exist. And that in itself is something to smile about. And as you say, we don't care whether anybody loves it, anybody hates it. If it feels in the moment the right thing, then that is good enough, isn't it? More than good enough.
Yeah. Because fulfilling is a feeling of, fulfilling is for me a feedback loop of you on the right path of your life. So what we're doing here now, and look, if I hated it or you hated it, and we would say, oh, come on, Michael, hurry up, that, because you're thinking already, you're in a mind construct thinking about the future, running your dog out or whatever, then you're not fulfilled. But when you're here in a moment in the podcast, what podcast, the magic of podcast is, it's a human conversation that you don't have normally anymore. You meet a human that you've never met, so you have to be aware. You have to align your six senses. I call the sixth sense the sense of resonate. How to resonate with each other. And then we talk to each other, and we force us, because we go over Zoom, we are not in person. It forces them to really pay attention and be in the moment. And that always feels great. And that's what the artist has. The artist cannot think of it. I have to go shopping today. And you focus in on making in a straight line. You have to focus on making the straight line. And that pushing yourself in the moment and not in a mind construct makes you always feel good, because all the philosophers talk forever, enjoy the moment, because time, you're not running on a progression, on a what you call a band of time, but time goes through you. So you are time. That's why when you are something you really enjoy is very short, because you're so in the moment that you don't experience, but the experience was so fulfilling. But you say, oh my God, the whole day went. That's why when artists paint, they don't eat, they don't do anything, because you don't need anything. It's just so fulfilling, and you chase that moment. And I always say, milk the moment of creation. That's one of my sayings. I always say, milk the moment of creation. And my podcast, the 30 seconds, it's a 30-second podcast because of my neurodiversity. I can't edit and all that stuff. is exactly about this. Milk the Moment. It's all about creation. So if you're an artist or not, it's just one. Every Saturday comes out an episode. It's not somebody else's quote. It's my quote and a question to bring you into that collective creator animal of nature that we are. And I think that's fulfilling, and that's fulfilling goes to happiness, because when you create a lot of moments like we do now, then you look back and say, how was my day? I was fulfilling. I had 3 podcasts. I had this, and all of a sudden you say, I'm happy. And then that state of happiness, because the feedback loop of your life is happiness, then you can feel love, not falling in love with somebody else. Then you feel love, which basically means you are in time space most of the time. And sometimes you find it, that's why we fall in love with somebody else, because the other person pushes you into that. But it is not the other person that you're in love with. She pushes you in, or you push her in, or both you push it in. That's, falling in love. You both pushing it, because love is not always reciprocal,
So do you think then that if you're kind of opening up this opportunity to be super creative, when you feel the urge to create as a human being, and you feel, okay, I have some space in my busy calendar and I'm going to create, and it doesn't matter what it is, you're just going to create. It could be something very creative, something that delivers an output. It could even be just creative thinking. So, a whole range of different things. Because that is outside of, you could argue, a system, because it is very personal, it's not going to be judged, you're going to decide what the measure of success is. So it is very kind of open and free and very freeing. Do you feel that there should be boundaries on it? I know in one of your books you talk about being politically correct, or tussling with this idea of political correctness within art and within creativity. Do you feel there's kind of still boundaries and almost like an inherent system that you need to put in place yourself within your creativity and art, or does anything go? Do you give yourself almost this ultimate permission to do, say, and to be anything? Or is there kind of a natural limit where really we shouldn't go beyond?
Neil, this is so great, because I ask myself that, because everybody says, what is art, right? What is art is one of the key questions. But it's systemic context. In systemic context, I can define art. This is Renaissance, this is Baroque, that is whatever, that's modern, that's Cubism, I can define it, whatever it is. But have you ever contemplated, what does art want? And I contemplate long and talk to a lot of people about it. And art does want nothing else but being created and exposed, not exposed to a million. So if I'm making a drawing on my pad here and I show it to you, that's it. That's all art wanted. It wanted that little squiggle, little doodle, and show it to you. So it's both. It's because you're bringing something in the physical and expose it to another human being. It doesn't matter if that's your grandmother or whatever. You have to expose it, because it's like you're dressing up for going out at night and never go out. So the whole thing is creating it and exposing. And that's it. It doesn't say how many people like it, how many likes you should get, how many people, how much they pay for it, or anything. Everything is consequential on that. So you create something and then you expose it, meaning you hand it over to a gallery or to a music center or whatever. You hand it over, and then your work is done, other than they want you to promote it, but that has nothing to do with art either. That's systemic. So basically that's all you have to do. That's, and I think there's no, and what I say, I'm actually against having said that, political correct. I said, you can't limit the expression of a human being. The human expresses himself. Neil, you might have different colors, prefer different colors, or if we just take colors right now, you would take different colors than I do. We have the same palette, and you would choose different colors. I said, choose 4 colors to paint. What colors are you choosing? See, there's so much in that when you just question yourself. I'm going to do a drawing with 4 colors. What colors would I choose? What would I do? Would I do abstract or would I do representational? Would I try to do a portrait? Would I try comics? Would I do it seriously? Would I do lettering? I mean, it doesn't matter. It just, and then you can ask afterwards. There's so much in that thing. Why did I choose lettering? Why didn't I choose to make a little girl with a stick figure or something? Why did I do what I did? And not trying to dissective. See, this is systemic. You need a solution. There's no solution in that. That is just a question. And then, when I see myself 3 times doing the same things and always get drawn to lettering, for example, I just do beautiful letters, right? And if I get drawn to this, that makes me curious. So I'm going to be curious about myself with a capital S and say, wow, look at this. Why is that? And it might have no meaning. It doesn't, even if I do it 99% of time I do lettering, has no meaning. It's just giving me feedback that doesn't need a system outcome. It just, perhaps I like the aesthetics of lettering better than the aesthetics of, making a portrait of somebody or making a scene or a landscape. It's just, and the same is with songs and poetry and all the expressions. Why do you like this kind of music? I like all kinds of music, but I'm drawn to some rhythm, very rhythm. So I'm a percussionist, so I'm drawn to rhythm in classical and everything. So it's not just so you see patternings in what you like. And so I just heard an Indian group of 2 sisters, and I said, why am I so? I couldn't stop hearing song, and I didn't have that experience since it was a long time, because music is so different now than it was then. It shows so much in it, and you don't really hear the essence of what it is. And I thought the same thing about rich people. I said, rich people in the old times seem to have more joy being rich than today. Today is just more, and never enough. And when I heard these 2 sisters sing, I was just contemplating why, like, rhythm, the very, making mistakes and not worrying about it. And it made it so humane. And that's why it drew me. This one sister's where she was just talking about, somebody was in the audience. It was a live thing. And she just talked to this guy, and they played the rhythm in the back. She wanted a light or something moved, and she just talked to them. Would never happen in the West, But she said, and then went back into the rhythm, and I loved that, that she didn't have everything controlled. So this is what that's why I'm so excited about art creation, because the value you get out of it. And you say, you're gonna make something great on it. Don't even start with a great thing. Just take a good pencil, if you like pencil, if you like thing. Find a good pencil and get a notepad, and just doodle. Have that in your office. And while you're thinking, you will see how much it brings you. If you like it, if you don't like it, don't doodle to get better ideas. That doesn't work, But if you like to doodle, it, first of all, it brings you in the moment. If you watch what comes out of you, it doesn't need to be representational. It can be abstract, whatever. And you just cut the lines. It could just lines, and you think, and then you go through what problem that you have at work, and so that's enough. That's enough. You're gonna feel better from that, and you gotta be aware. Neurodiverse people, and I'm an advocate for neurodiversity. So we suggest that you get something like a little animal or something, to a widget or something because it holds you in the moment. And when you're in the moment, even they say when you speak, you should wear a pen or a key, so you stay in a moment. You're not losing your train of thought. So, but I think you can bring that. We are all neurodiverse. I don't think that's something special. We're just hard on the spectrum, but ADHD is increasing so much because we are pushed by systems to be in our mind construct, future and past versus now. So, what we got to do next? What is the next step? What is the next step? You have never experienced this step right now, and I think that's one thing would help people.
It's really interesting the word you use, control. You said it a couple of times there, and it really shouted out at me, because I think this is almost what we're talking about here, is this giving up and acceptance of losing control, letting go of control, surrendering the control, because in that moment that you're describing there, that sweet moment where nothing else matters, you are completely focused in, but almost without trying. You don't need to control. There is no system. There is no kind of benchmark you're trying to perform against. You are just in that moment. The ikigai, as the Japanese call it. It is just that very, very sweet spot. This is quite meditative, isn't it? This is meditation, but awake meditation. That's how I'm kind of hearing it from you. Is that how it feels like when you're in that moment?
Yeah, meditation isn't just fall asleep. I mean, if you can, it's not forbidden. You don't do something wrong, because that's systemizing meditation. But meditation is to be in that moment of flow. Some people say it's flow. In that flow moment, in the current moment, present here, without doing something, without having being a human being, not a human doing. So it's not about thinking. You use thinking for, okay, I have to go right now from here to there. What is the best way? That is the right thing of thinking. But we don't do that. We think all the time. We do this and 100,000 other things that we think we need to do and figure out first. No, you don't. When you can doodle, you can look at the email, doodle, and then go think that, or have some music on, because it gets you into the feeling mode. And when you hit, I think that sweet spot that you're talking about is when you're in between feeling and thinking, when you're not. Balance is everything in nature, as you know. The ultimate power is balance, and we are part of nature. We cannot take ourselves out of that. So for us, it's balance too. And it's not systemically work-life balance. That's systemic. Every time you reverse engineer gratitude, when you and I, if I'm saying, why don't you think about gratitude? You feeling gratitude right now, because when you're fulfilled and you are in the moment, you feel gratitude, mindfulness. You feel all these words. These words that the system wants to reverse engineer and says, we feel that we are enough. We are enough by nature, because nature doesn't make mistakes, and we are born. So we are born because we are enough. That doesn't mean we are system relevant. You got to get education for that. You got to do, but that we think we are not valuable. See, when we go into the systemic too much, and say, okay, I'm only an artist if I'm the most famous artist in the world. I'm known as an artist, but not as a famous artist. So I'm basically a failure as an artist. Doesn't matter if I've written 5 books about it. I made $20 $50 last year on 5 books. It doesn't matter. According to systems, I'm not an artist even. So. But I've talked to the systemically biggest artists and have no problem talking to them. Have talked to museums, do my consulting and all that stuff. No problem, without an art degree or anything. because I look at it from what it is, what art is really,
We've got a big challenge coming up, though, haven't we? Because what you've just described very eloquently, and
Yeah.
there's some really interesting ideas within this, and I think some real practical advice and guidance for everybody listening, really, in terms of how simple it is to experiment and explore this. But we've got this huge, big challenge coming, haven't we? If we introduce the two letters AI, because if we're talking systemic, if we're talking about process, if we're talking about control, never probably in the sort of the length of humanity has anything like this come up, which is absolutely fundamentally based in machine learning, in process and control, in systems and development of even more levels of control. How on earth are we going to be able to retain art, creativity in a human sense when this great big thing called AI, well, it's already here for a lot of us, is already starting to take away some of this need to be a creative? I can create, incredible videos, incredible graphics, amazingly crafted words in either blogs, social media, or actual full book form at the press of a button. I don't need creativity. I've got to write some pretty good prompts to make sure it's pretty accurate, maybe first or second draft, but I can do this without even putting the badge of creativity on it. I want your help here, Michaell, in terms of really identifying what kind of a vision do we need for AI to really kind of match this human-centric form and not lose this wonderful simplicity and freedom that we have through a more traditional way of art and creativity, as you've described it. What can we do?
AI is a tool. Number one, AI is a tool. If you're an artist like me, that I tried writing tools and have 3-4 repeated, change the prompts, do it. You have to do it. Actually takes more. I mean, it takes more time, because see, the most valuable thing we have is time, because we can't buy it back. So for me, it takes tremendous time. Even it comes up with words that sound better, but it's like looking at the thesaurus. It's like the structure, but I tell you honestly, when I run it through Claude 2 or something, and then I get better words, and I only do it for things where I'm stuck, where I said, how can I say that's better in a better word, or in better express that better? And then I run it, and then I see, what it offers me, and then I change it again. I cannot take it and just plug it in. That this is impossible. I've not taken one paragraph in that said, oh my God, this is so perfect, I'm gonna just put that in. Never. And it gets better, but it's a repetitive thing. Number one, it's time delayed, meaning it's 2 years old. And I think it's okay, because and I see good things about AI too. When somebody cannot express something, or cannot help them to speak, I think the language is the most powerful thing, and actually it will help us to talk to each other in a better way if we use it the right way. If you're not looking what you're saying, it doesn't help you. It doesn't how proasic it's expressed doesn't make a difference if you don't know what I want to. If I want to convey to you, this is about an orange, and when I peel it, and it sprays the scent and whatever, and I cannot come, and it says about the orange, and I put it in AI, and it says about the orange, the orange juice making of whatever. I'm not communicating what I want to communicate to you. So I need to understand context, and I need to understand language and context, and then It's better though for people that say, hey, write me everything systemic is going to be better, because systemic, application letter for being a machinist on a ship, on that special ship for that motor. You put that in, boom, it gets you a thing, and you don't have to. It's you, the person that never writes, doesn't have to sit with this thing and try to do an application letter and put all the fear into that application letter. And it's got to be mistakes and everything. So you can just make everything systemically. And AI is basically our big dream. I say it's our wet dream to that we have a machine that does the system work. Because this is literally what everybody on all the communications you hear. And that's why my book that I write about AI is going to be, what is the human purpose? What does it help me and you to have AI? What would it have? And it's very hard to figure out. It's all systemic. If I write you an email, I can make it better, but I could write you just a couple of words. But let's say if I couldn't write, I just use the AI. I say, what is the human profit of AI? It's just make systems faster. It makes system faster, more efficient, more perfect, less mistakes. So it's a system amplifier. And with that comes the problem. Not that I'm not danger. I'm not even going there to danger. It comes the problem that, when I think you are as old to remember, before emails, you got 5 letters, 10 letters a day. If you had a company, right? If you don't have a company, you don't get any letters. But if you had them, 10 letters a day. If you have a big company, 40 letters a day, right? Now you get hundreds of emails. What do you think happens with AI when all the emails are written like I wrote them to you, or they pretend that's our conversation or something, and you open and you have to go through them? I say it's a tremendous time. It's like a black hole for time, because you think and then if I have AI, then you have AI. Then your AI is better. Then I have to make sure that I level up with AI. I have the latest update. It's an unbelievable eat of time. The profit is not, unless you're a systemic worker, an accountant or something. I think the rewards are not justifying the means, the work. It just doesn't, because without you controlling it, it makes no sense. See, this is what I think with the email system, for example. So you get an email system, I get an email. So you get the new AI program, and I get 300 emails a day. They all look like personal. Now I'm buying an AI product that selects and finds the AI written emails and sorts them out. So there is one thing that they mistakenly sort out a real good letter, a real important letter for me. And then I have to look still at whatever is left over. They're not going to throw out 200 emails from 300. They're going to throw out 100 perhaps, that because it has to be either or. It's binary. It has to be or it's not. It has to make that cut. And then you sit there, and then you still have to go through all the other ones, and they might not be good either because AI didn't pick it up or not. You can, by the way, not hide whatever is for us, the low-level people, systemic low-level people. The AI we use cannot detect if it's AI or not. With the anti-AI also. That's very glitchy. That's very hallucinative. It doesn't work really good. And a friend of mine did an experiment, wrote a web page, a website. Actually, he made a website and did it all by hand, and then made the same website with AI, ran it through Grammarly, ran it through an anti-AI finding or whatever. The handwritten is ranked. The other one is not. You can find the other one, but it's not ranked. So there is a higher AI we have no access to. And so, yeah, obviously people want to be in control. As we said, people want to control everything. So, and they're afraid that this little the PlayStations that we have, not getting out of hand. It's take it one day by that. I wouldn't even put anything in it. And I think it's already going down either. It's like when it's already going down. It's like NFTs. Everybody, we got to do NFTs. And I did an article about NFTs because I looked at the NFTs and says, I don't understand the connection with art in that I found out that it's all about selling cryptocurrency, using art to sell cryptocurrencies. It has nothing to do with art. Zero. Zilch. It was a promise to the artist that they will make money, but primarily the money was selling cryptocurrency.
Again, another thing within the system then that we can easily get caught into.
System, and it's always something. And already you see, I feel it's the big hype with AI, and now people use it, and we are limitless. Humans are limitless because and now we see it's not doing that because it takes so much time. They sell it's fast, but it takes so much time.
I like the way, though, that you describe almost a role for it. Yes, the automation, clearly, if there are things that are repetitive tasks, or if you're a person who has a specific kind of role where, time efficiency is critical. So therefore, there's a role for that. I get that totally. But I also like the way that you've described almost sitting alongside you as a creative or as a sort of a creative being, not necessarily a full-time professional artist, but somebody who wishes to be a little bit more creative, a little bit more human in what they do. I love this idea that AI can almost sit alongside you, or, just behind your shoulder, giving you maybe prompts, giving you a little bit of support when there are certain things you might need a little push over the edge with something, particularly in the written word. So being there as a supporter, a trusted ally, that feels a really kind of good vision for AI within this kind of human sort of system that we're actually talking about here, because then it knows its place. There are boundaries. We're not expecting too much from it. We're not trying to get it to replace us, but we're not also using it to kind of plagiarize its output and say, right, this was me. Whereas actually it wasn't. It was an AI that created it, but I'm going to put my name against it. It's almost like we're going to do this nicely and properly by saying there are certain things that I'm not that great at. Maybe, I don't know, grammar checking, for example, checking the grammar in sentences. And you can run it through an AI to just check that. It's a simple example, but that feels a good use of AI as a supporter, as an advocate, as a specialist advisor or guide, rather than the be all and end all of creativity, full stop. But then the creativity still rests with us as humans. That feels good. That feels nice.
It always will, because you have a voice. You are one of 8 billion people. It always, everything breaks down when you remind yourself you're one of 8 billion people with different DNA, different fingerprints, different eyes, and different perspective. 8 billion perspectives. We all look at our lives differently in the context of our lives. So it's a different perspective. Nobody has the same life. And that's where technology stops. It just stops there. It can only do the function that we have given it, and the function that we have given to any system. It doesn't matter, government or whatever, to support human potential. So if I can do a better letter, right, or I can express myself, it's basically all about expressing your essence. If I can express my essence better with the help of AI, by wording it better, having that little graphic that I couldn't have done before, then it's got to be great. The problem is when AI wants to copy your voice and your image. I think that needs to be a human right, that there's 8 billion people, you have your right, birthright is your voice and your image. Unless you're an actor and you give permission for that and that to take it. But I think it needs to always be a permission. And it will be also very important to watermark it. So whenever somebody looks at it, that's something what you just said, that's it's my thing. Watermark what is AI, because you might sell yourself to me as a graphic artist, have no idea about graphic artistry, and you show me your portfolio, and it's like, oh my god, but it's not you, so
There's just a real inherent honesty required here, isn't there, really? And I guess I keep finding myself using this word wholesome when I sort of talk to people about the use of AI in communications more generally. And I think, there needs to be an honesty built into AI as a system, as an infrastructure, but also an honesty in terms of the outputs and how we use them. And I think, ultimately, if we're trying to construct this idea of a vision for AI going forward, I think it is that balance of everything that you've said there, with this kind of honest perspective from the developers and the system builders as much as from the humans are going to be using it. And I think if we can always strike that balance, it's good.
Both transparency, transparent, be transparent from, it's like me saying, oh, I'm not neurodiverse. I say I'm neurodiverse. That's, be transparent. You didn't ask me. It's just be transparent so people know, this is what I have to deal with this, and I can adapt to that. And the same thing, I think it is much better if you as a company or as a power broker, right? If you being transparent and the people adapt to that, say, the whole thing, look at the war is the best thing. It's not, the last 2 wars are not transparent at all. Not at all. It's just a made up thing. And people cannot adapt. And we need transparency to adapt, to certain things. And it's just this one surprise after another. We don't get it. We don't get it. Humanity always. We try to save humans, and now it's the public. Boom! At an art festival of all things. Just willy nilly. So just it happens there to get more attention, to cater to the system. So this is the big thing. You gotta be human centric if you want to enjoy life and feel like you have a life, or you can exist in fear and just have, and then life is going to be a fear existence and the fear of death. It's just going to be, life is more than just, existing and dying. It is just more.
And what a lovely way to come full circle back to pretty much where we started. Michaell, this has been really good. I want to be pointing people to your podcast. So it's The Smart of Art. Is that the
Smart of Art, the podcast is on all podcast platforms. It's The Smart of Art, the power of art and creativity. But you find me, it's easier to go to michaelm.com, Michaell with 2 L's and M, michaelm.com. And you can contact me there. You have all the podcasts, all the books, all the music, all the paintings, everything. You have the whole, it's one hub, and you can think. And Neil, we can do this anytime again. If you want to go specifically into any topics, we could just do it on one topic, since we have now established who I am and what I do. Then we can then specifically pinpoint certain things if you like.
It's been great, really interesting. And I think for a lot of people, getting a broader context of the whole kind of creative, part of ourselves as humans, as much as how that's going to integrate with this, emerging world that we all face with its chaos and its challenges, and the big system, which we've mentioned a few times here. It's a challenge for all of us, but there is a way through. So keep in touch with Michaell and his work through The Smart of Art. power of art and creativity. And I will
Mhm.
put michaellm.com, the link in the description below. So if you've been excited or enticed into this interesting world of philosophy around communications, then yeah, go check Michaell out. Thank you again, Michaell, for your time today. It's been a really
Thank you.
interesting conversation.
Appreciate it. Thank you.